It was 6:23 p.m. on a Tuesday when Detective Sarah Chun first noticed a small figure hunched over a stack of newspapers outside Miller's Grocery on 5th Street. She'd driven this route hundreds of times, past the same weathered storefronts and cracked parking lots that define the east side of Riverside. But something about the way the child sat, perfectly still, shoulders curved inward like he was protecting something precious, made her slow the patrol car. Her partner, Detective James Rodriguez, glanced up from his incident report, following her gaze. "Kid's been there for over an hour," he said, checking his watch. "Mrs. Miller mentioned him when we responded to that shoplifting call earlier. The boy could have been more than 10, wearing a jacket 3 sizes too big and sneakers held together with duct tape. His dark hair fell across his face as he carefully folded each newspaper into precise squares, stacking them in a worn cardboard box beside him. That's not normal behavior for a kid that age," Chen said, pulling into a parking space. "Most 10-year-olds can't sit still for 10 minutes, let alone an hour." She rolled down her window. "Hey there, you okay?" The boy looked up, revealing eyes that seemed to hold too much knowledge for someone so young. He didn't speak immediately, just studied her badge, her uniform, the way Rodriguez sat quietly observing. "I'm Detective Chun. This is Detective Rodriguez. What's your name?" "Marcus," he said softly. "Marcus Thompson. You waiting for someone, Marcus?" He shook his head, gesturing to the stack of papers. "I'm working." Chin stepped out of the car, Rodriguez following her lead. Up close, she could see the boy's hands were stained with newsprint, his fingernails bitten down to the quick. The newspapers weren't random. Each one was folded to highlight job listings, apartment rentals, food assistance programs. "What kind of work are you doing?" Rodriguez asked gently. Marcus hesitated, then held up one of the folded papers. "Finding help for Mama. She's been looking for a job since they closed the factory. These have all the listings." He pointed to different sections he'd marked with a stub of pencil. "This one's hiring at the warehouse, but you need a car. This one's for cleaning offices at night, but the bus doesn't run that late." Chen knelt beside him, her heart already sinking. "Where's your mama now, Marcus?" "At home with the baby. She can't leave Emma alone, and we can't afford a babysitter." He carefully placed another folded paper in his box. "So I come here every day after school to find new listings. Sometimes people throw away papers with job ads that are still good." Rodriguez glanced at Chun, both thinking the same thing. This wasn't typical childhood responsibility. This was survival. "How long have you been doing this?" Chin asked. Marcus counted on his fingers. "Since Christmas. That's when Mama started crying at night. She tries to be quiet, but our walls are thin." He looked down at his hands. "I figure if I could help find her work, maybe she wouldn't cry so much." The simplicity of his logic, the matter-of-fact way he'd taken on an adult burden, hit both detectives harder than any domestic violence call or robbery report they'd handled that week. "Marcus, have you eaten today?" Rodriguez asked. The boy nodded quickly. "Had breakfast. Cereal. What about lunch?" "I'm not hungry." Chin recognized the practiced answer of a child who'd learned to ignore hunger pangs. "When did you last have lunch?" Marcus fidgeted with a newspaper corner. "Sunday. Mama made eggs." "It was Tuesday. Where do you live, son?" Rodriguez asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Oakmont Apartments. Building C, Apartment 3. Marcus started gathering his papers, sensing the shift in their attention. "I should get home. Mama worries if I'm gone too long." "We'll give you a ride," Chin said. It wasn't really a question. Marcus clutched his box of newspapers. "I can walk. It's not far." "I know, but it's getting dark. And these papers are heavy." She helped him load the box into the back of the patrol car, noting how he arranged each folded paper with careful precision, like they were important documents rather than discarded news. During the short drive, Marcus sat quietly in the back seat, occasionally giving directions in a voice barely above a whisper. Jim watched him in the rear-view mirror, noting how he pressed his face to the window whenever they passed a help wanted sign, his lips moving silently as he read. Oakmont Apartments looked exactly like what it was, a last resort. Three-story buildings with peeling paint, broken playground equipment, and laundry hanging from fire escapes. Building C stood at the back of the complex, furthest from the main road, where the streetlights were either broken or had never been installed. Third floor, Marcus said as they climbed the narrow staircase. The banister was loose, and several steps had chunks missing from the concrete. Mama says to be careful on the seventh step. It's cracked bad. When they reached apartment 3, Marcus paused with his hand on the doorknob. Can you not tell her about the crying? She doesn't know I heard. Chen's throat tightened. We won't mention it. Marcus knocked softly. 3 quick taps, then 2 slow ones. Mama, it's me. I brought some people to help. The door opened to reveal a young woman who couldn't have been much older than 25, holding a baby against her hip. She was thin in a way that suggested Miss Meals rather than choice, wearing scrubs that had seen better days. Her eyes immediately went to uniforms, then to Marcus, searching for signs of trouble. I'm Detective Chun. This is Detective Rodriguez. Marcus was helping us with some community outreach work. The lie came easily, protecting the boy's dignity. He mentioned you might be looking for employment opportunities. The woman, who introduced herself as Lisa Thompson, invited them inside with a hesitant politeness of someone who'd learned to be wary of official attention. The apartment was tiny but meticulously clean. A couch that doubled as a bed sat against one wall, covered with a blanket that had been mended multiple times. The kitchen consisted of a small refrigerator, 2-burner stove, and a card table with folding chairs. Marcus, why don't you show Detective Rodriguez your schoolwork while I talk to your mama? Chin suggested, wanting to speak with Lisa privately. As Rodriguez was led to a corner where Marcus had set up a makeshift desk using a TV tray and cardboard box, Chin noticed the details that told a real story. Bills stacked on the counter, many marked final notice. A nearly empty pantry with generic brand items, arranged to look fuller than they were. Baby formula containers that had been carefully cleaned and repurposed as storage. How old is Emma? Chin asked, nodding toward the baby. 8 months, Lisa said, bouncing the child gently. She's been fussy today. Probably hungry, but I'm trying to stretch her formula until my assistant's check comes in. When's that due? Should have been yesterday. Sometimes they're late. Lisa's voice carried the exhaustion of someone carrying too much worry. Marcus thinks I don't know what he's doing with those newspapers. He's such a good boy, trying to help, but he should be playing, not... She trailed off, looking toward her son, who was proudly showing Rodriguez a math worksheet covered in gold stars. Ma'am, can I ask what happened to the factory? Chin said gently. Lisa sank into one of the folding chairs, adjusting Emma on her lap. Riverside Manufacturing. They closed last November with 2 weeks' notice. I'd worked there since high school. It was good pay, had benefits. Marcus's father left when Emma was born, so it was just my income. She gestured around the apartment. We had a house before. Small, but it was ours. After the factory closed, I couldn't make the mortgage. Lost it in February. This place, she shrugged. It's what we could afford with the money I had left. Chun did quick math in her head. November to now was nearly 6 months. Have you been able to find other work? I've applied everywhere. Problem is, most jobs want you available during the day, and I can't afford childcare for Emma. The few night positions either don't pay enough to cover babysitting costs, or they're across town, where the bus doesn't run late enough. Lisa's voice cracked slightly. Marcus knows I've been struggling. He's always been mature for his age, but lately... Mama, look. Marcus appeared beside them, holding up his collection of newspapers. I found 3 new job listings today. This one's for a telephone customer service job you can do from home, and this one's for weekend work at the hospital. Lisa took the papers, her eyes filling with tears she tried to hide. Thank you, baby. You're such a good helper. Rodriguez caught Chen's eye and tilted his head toward the door. They needed to talk. Mrs. Thompson, we're going to step outside for just a minute, Chen said. Marcus, can you keep showing your mama those job listings? In the hallway, Rodriguez spoke quietly. The school situation is concerning. Kids miss 15 days this semester because he's been helping his mother. How do you know that? His homework. Look at the dates. Rodriguez showed her a photo he'd taken of Marcus's assignments. He's doing excellent work, but there are gaps, and some of these math problems. He pointed to word problems involving budgeting and percentages. This isn't typical fourth-grade curriculum. He's teaching himself practical math because he needs it. Chen rubbed her forehead, feeling the familiar weight of a case that was about to become personal. What's our legal obligation here? Technically, call Child Services. File a report about possible neglect due to food insecurity and educational neglect. Rodriguez leaned against the wall. Realistically, we break up a family where the mother's doing everything she can and the kid is thriving academically despite circumstances beyond their control. And Marcus ends up in foster care, while Lisa loses the only family she has left. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of mother and son discussing job applications through the thin door. There has to be another way, Chen said finally. When they returned to the apartment, Marcus was sitting beside his mother, baby Emma gurgling happily on his lap while he made silly faces at her. The scene was so normal, so tender, that it made their decision even harder. Mrs. Thompson, Chen began carefully, what would you say if I told you I might know about some job opportunities that could work with your schedule? Lisa looked up, hope and skepticism warring in her expression. I'd say that sounds too good to be true. My sister works in administration at Riverside General Hospital. They're expanding their night shift program for medical coding. Work that can be done remotely after training. The training is paid, and they provide the computer equipment. It wasn't entirely a lie. Chen's sister did work at the hospital, though she needed to make some calls to verify the details. Remote work. Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. From home, evening hours, with child-care vouchers provided during the training period. Chen was improvising now, but she'd figure out how to make it work later. Would you be interested in learning more? Marcus looked between his mother and the detectives, his young face serious. Is this because of my newspapers? Chen knelt to his level. Marcus, your newspapers helped us understand how smart you are and how much you care about your family. But you know what? We also learned that you've been missing school to help your mama. His face fell. Am I in trouble? No, buddy. But here's the thing. The best way you can help your family is by being the amazing kid you are. Going to school, learning everything you can, playing with friends. That's your job right now. Rodriguez added. Your mama's job is to take care of the grown-up stuff like finding work and paying bills. Our job is to help families like yours find the resources they need. Marcus considered this seriously. But what if the job thing doesn't work out? What if Mama needs help and I'm at school? Lisa pulled her son close. Baby, these nice officers are going to help us figure things out. And you know what? Even if things get hard again, we'll handle it together. But I need you to promise me you'll focus on being a kid, okay? Can I still help with Emma? Of course you can help with your sister. That's what big brothers do. Chen felt something tight in her chest ease slightly. Marcus, how would you feel about showing me those math problems you've been working on while Detective Rodriguez talks to your mom about the job program? For the next hour, they sat around the small table, Marcus proudly explaining how he'd figured out percentage discounts at grocery stores and calculated whether it was cheaper to buy generic brands in bulk. His mathematical reasoning was impressive, but what struck him most was his earnest desire to contribute. Meanwhile, Rodriguez was on the phone with social services, not to report the family, but to connect them with emergency food assistance and utility help. He'd also called Chen's sister, who surprisingly confirmed that the hospital was indeed looking to expand their remote coding program. Sometimes, Rodriguez told Chen as they prepared to leave, the system actually works the way it's supposed to. Before they left, Chen gave Marcus her card. This has my direct number. If you ever need help with anything, you call me, okay? Marcus studied the card carefully, then folded it and put it in his pocket next to his pencil stub. Detective Chen, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think things will get better? Chen looked around the small apartment, at Lisa holding Emma while reviewing job application materials, at the stack of bills that would soon be manageable, at the homework spread across the makeshift desk where a brilliant child had been teaching himself survival mathematics. Marcus, I think things are already getting better. You know why? He shook his head. Because when you saw your family needed help, you didn't give up. You didn't wait for someone else to fix it. You got those newspapers. You learned what you needed to learn, and you never stopped believing there was a solution. She smiled. That kind of determination, that's going to take you places. 3 weeks later, Chin received a call at the station. Detective Chin, this is Marcus Thompson. I wanted to tell you, Mama got the job. That's wonderful, Marcus. How's the training going? Really good. She works at night after Emma goes to sleep, and I help by being extra quiet and doing my homework without being asked. His voice was bright with pride. And guess what? I got moved up to advanced math at school because my teacher said I was working above grade level. Chin smiled, remembering the newspaper-stained hands and serious eyes of the boy who'd taken on the world to protect his family. I'm proud of you, buddy. Detective Chin, I still keep some newspapers. Not for job hunting. Mama doesn't need that anymore. But I like reading about what's happening in the city. Is that weird? Not weird at all, Marcus. I think you're going to be the kind of person who always cares about what's happening around him. After hanging up, Chin sat back in her chair, thinking about the thin line between intervention and interference, between helping and hurting. They'd found Marcus folding newspapers on a Tuesday evening, a child carrying burdens that belonged to adults. But they'd also found a family that refused a break, a mother who never stopped fighting, and a boy whose determination had ultimately saved them all. 6 months later, Rodriguez was promoted to detective sergeant. During a celebration dinner, he raised his glass and said, "To the cases that remind us why we do this job." Chin knew exactly which case he meant. A year after that first encounter, Chin received a graduation announcement in the mail. Marcus Thompson, now 12, had been accepted into an accelerated academic program at Riverside Middle School. The photo showed a confident young man in a cap and gown, standing beside his mother and baby sister, who was now a toddler taking her first steps. On the back of the photo, in Marcus's careful handwriting, "Thank you for teaching me that asking for help isn't giving up, it's being smart. P.S. I still have your card." Sometimes the strongest people are the smallest ones. Sometimes wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. And sometimes when a child decides to carry tomorrow on their shoulders, all they need is for someone to notice, to care, and to remind them that they don't have to carry it alone. The newspapers that Marcus had folded so carefully that Tuesday evening were eventually recycled, their job listings and apartment ads serving their purpose before being transformed into something new. But the lesson they taught, that solutions exist, that persistence matters, that love finds a way, that lesson remained, carried forward by a boy who learned early that tomorrow is worth fighting for, and that the best way to carry it is together.